Oh, look who disappeared. Look who went ghost. Look who stepped back, stepped out, stepped away, and never looked back. You beautiful, dangerous, liberated soul. Welcome to the other side. Or should I say, welcome to their nightmare, because that's exactly what your absence became. A living, breathing, suffocating nightmare they can't wake up from. And the best part, the most twisted, poetic, ruthless part, they did this to themselves. They pushed, they tested. And if any part of what you just felt right now feels familiar, like something in you already knew this moment was coming, that instinct didn't come from nowhere. That's the exact mindset built inside the Joker Doctrine 2 edition, The Mind Unmasked. It's not a book you read once and shelve. It's the doctrine behind every person who stopped reacting and started ruling. The same quiet discipline that turns hatred into someone else's downfall without you lifting a finger. The link is in the description right now. Go get your copy before this video even ends, because the next chapter of your story should be written with the same mind that's about to watch theirs collapse. They played their games. They thought you'd break. They thought you'd beg. They thought you'd come crawling back with apologies dripping from your lips, desperate for their validation, their attention, their crumbs of affection. But you didn't. You didn't flinch. You didn't fold. You walked away. And that silence, oh, that silence, it's eating them alive. Let's get something straight right now. Your absence wasn't a tantrum. It wasn't a phase. It wasn't some dramatic exit meant to get their attention. No, your absence was a statement, a declaration, a final, irreversible decision that screamed louder than any words ever could. And what did it say? It said, I don't need you anymore. 5 words. 5 simple, devastating, truth-soaked words that shattered every illusion they had about you. Because they were convinced, absolutely convinced, that you needed them more than they needed you. They thought they were the sun, and you were some desperate little planet orbiting around their warmth. They thought they were irreplaceable. They thought you were weak. They thought you were attached. They thought you were trapped. And when you left, when you vanished without explanation, without drama, without a single backward glance, that's when the terror set in. See, people like them. They don't fear loss when they see you crying. They don't fear loss when you're begging them to stay. They don't fear loss when you're fighting for them. They actually feel powerful in those moments. They feel needed. They feel validated. They feed off your desperation like it's oxygen. But your silence, your absence, your complete and total indifference to their existence, that's not just fear anymore. That's confirmation. Confirmation that they were never as important as they thought they were. Confirmation that you were never as weak as they believed. Confirmation that everything they thought they knew about you was a lie. And that confirmation? It's destroying them from the inside out. Because now they're forced to face the truth they spent so long avoiding, the truth that you don't need them. You never really did. And that realization is so bitter, so heavy, so unbearable, that it's haunting every single moment of their lives. Do you know what they're doing right now? Right this second? They're checking, obsessively, compulsively. They're scrolling through your socials, even though they swore they wouldn't. They're asking mutual friends about you, even though they act like they don't care. They're replaying old conversations in their head, trying to figure out where it all went wrong. They're staring at their phone, waiting for your name to light up the screen. They're crafting messages they'll never send because their pride won't let them, but their desperation is killing them. They're lying awake at 3 a.m., wondering if you're thinking about them, wondering if you miss them, wondering if you're okay, wondering if you've moved on. And the answer? The cold, brutal, liberating answer? You have. You're not thinking about them. You're not missing them. You're thriving without them. And that truth is a knife twisting deeper every single day. They thought they were teaching you a lesson. They thought their silence would break you. They thought their games would make you desperate. They thought withholding their presence would make you realize your worth was tied to them. But all they did was give you the space to realize something far more dangerous, that your worth was never tied to them at all, that you were whole before them, that you were enough without them, that your peace, your power, your purpose, it didn't need their approval. It didn't need their validation. It didn't need their participation. And the moment you realized that, the moment that truth clicked in your mind like a lock opening, that's when you became untouchable. That's when you became dangerous. That's when you became everything they feared you could be, free. Now let's talk about what happened next. Because your absence didn't just create fear, it created chaos. It created questions. It created doubt. Suddenly, they started analyzing everything. Every interaction, every conversation, every moment they took you for granted, every time they dismissed you, every time they made you feel small, every time they chose someone else over you, every time they played games instead of being real. All of it came rushing back like a flood they couldn't control. And for the first time, maybe the first time ever, they started seeing you clearly. Not as the person they wanted you to be, not as the person they tried to mold you into, but as the person you actually were. Strong, resilient, valuable, irreplaceable. And that vision, it terrified them, because they knew they lost it. They knew they destroyed it. They knew they took it for granted, and now it's gone. You know what's beautiful about this? What's absolutely poetic about this whole situation? It's that they can't even be angry at you. They want to be. They want to villainize you. They want to tell themselves and everyone else that you're cold, heartless, cruel for disappearing. But deep down, they know the truth. They know they pushed you away. They know they chose this. They know every warning sign they ignored, every boundary they crossed, every moment they chose their ego over your heart. They know, and that knowledge is suffocating them. Because how do you blame someone for leaving when you're the reason they had to go? How do you play the victim when you were the one holding the knife? How do you seek sympathy when everyone around you can see you created your own emptiness? You can't, so they sit in their silence, drowning in regret, suffocating in realization, haunted by what could have been if only they had chosen differently. Here's the part they didn't calculate. The part they didn't see coming. They thought your absence would be temporary. They thought you'd cool off and come back. They thought this was just another fight, another phase, another storm that would pass and everything would go back to normal. But normal doesn't exist anymore. You rewrote the entire script. You changed the game. You evolved past the person they knew. And now when they try to reach you, if they ever find the courage to try, they'll be reaching for a ghost, a memory, a version of you that doesn't exist anymore, because you're not the same person who left. You're not the same person who tolerated their nonsense. You're not the same person who bent over backward trying to make them see your value. You've become someone who knows their value, someone who protects their peace, someone who refuses to settle for anything less than what they deserve. And that person doesn't have space for them anymore. Let's dive deeper into their psychology right now, because understanding their torment makes your freedom taste even sweeter. They're experiencing what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. Their mind is at war with itself. One part of them wants to believe you're suffering without them, that you're broken, that you're lonely, that you need them just as much as they need you. But the other part, the part they can't silence, knows the truth, knows you're fine, knows you're better, knows you're thriving. And these two realities cannot coexist peacefully. So their mind is fracturing. They're questioning everything. They're doubting themselves. They're wondering if they made the biggest mistake of their life. And every day that passes without you, every day you don't reach out. Every day you live your life as if they never existed. It confirms what they fear most, that they were never as significant as they thought they were. You want to know the most dangerous thing about your absence? It's permanent. It's not a strategy. It's not a game. It's not manipulation. It's genuine indifference born from genuine growth. And they can feel that. They can sense the shift. They can tell this isn't the same person who used to chase them. This isn't the same person who used to fight for their attention. This isn't the same person who valued their opinion above their own. You've transmuted. You've transformed. You've transcended. And that transformation is irreversible, because you can't unknow what you now know. You can't unfeel the peace you now feel. You can't return to a version of yourself that accepted less than you deserved. The old you died in that absence. And from those ashes rose someone they can't touch, someone they can't control, someone they can't manipulate, someone who belongs to themselves and themselves alone. Now watch what happens in their social circles. Watch what happens to their image. Because your absence is telling a story they can't control. People notice. People talk. People wonder. Where did they go? What happened between you two? Why aren't they around anymore? And they have to answer those questions. They have to explain your absence. And what can they say? The truth? That they took you for granted? That they played games? That they tested you until you walked away? They can't say that without exposing themselves. So they lie. They minimize. They create false narratives. They paint themselves as the victim of your coldness. But here's the problem with lies. They require constant maintenance. They require convincing performances. They require everyone around them to be blind to the truth. But people aren't stupid. People see patterns. People remember how they treated you. And slowly, gradually, inevitably, their narrative falls apart, and their reputation crumbles with it. Meanwhile, you're over here building, creating, growing, becoming. You're not stuck in the past replaying old hurts. You're not obsessing over what they're doing. You're not checking their profiles, hoping they're miserable. You're focused on yourself. You're healing. You're elevating. You're discovering parts of yourself that were buried under the weight of that connection. You're learning what you actually like, what you actually want, what you actually need. You're establishing boundaries you never had. You're cultivating relationships that actually nourish you. You're pursuing dreams you put on hold. You're remembering who you were before them and becoming who you were always meant to be. And that energy, that authentic, powerful, liberated energy, it's magnetic. It's attracting opportunities. It's attracting people. It's attracting experiences. It's attracting a life you didn't even know was possible. And they can see it. Even from a distance, they can see you glowing. And it's killing them. Here's what they're learning the hard way. Absence doesn't make the heart grow fonder when the person leaving has genuinely moved on. It just makes the heart grow heavy with regret. They thought your presence was guaranteed. They thought you were a permanent fixture in their life. They thought they could treat you however they wanted, and you'd always be there. They thought they had unlimited chances. They thought they had forever to get it right. But forever ended the day you walked away. And now they're stuck with memories they can't change. Conversations they can't redo. Moments they can't get back. Chances they can't reclaim. And all they have is the haunting realization that they destroyed something rare, something real, something they'll spend the rest of their life trying to find again in other people. But they won't. Because what you gave them was unique. What you offered them was authentic. What you brought to their life was irreplaceable. And they know it. Let's get brutally honest for a second. You scared them. Your growth scared them. Your peace scared them. Your ability to walk away scared them. Because it revealed something they didn't want to acknowledge. That you were stronger than they gave you credit for. That you were more independent than they assumed. That you had more self-respect than they expected. They built an entire identity around being needed by you, around being wanted by you, around being chosen by you. And when you stop needing wanting and choosing them, their entire identity collapsed. Now they're scrambling, trying to find someone else to validate them, trying to recreate what you gave them, trying to fill the void your absence created. But it's not working, because other people aren't you. Other connections aren't what you had. Other experiences aren't what you shared. You were once in a lifetime, and they gambled with you, and they lost. You know what the ultimate power move is? It's not revenge. It's not exposing them. It's not making them hurt the way they made you hurt. The ultimate power move is indifference. Complete, genuine, unbothered indifference. Because revenge means you still care. Exposure means you're still affected. But indifference? Indifference means they lost their power over you. Indifference means they no longer occupy space in your mind. Indifference means you moved on so completely that they became irrelevant. And that irrelevance is more painful to them than any revenge plot you could concoct. Because being hated means you still evoke emotion. Being forgotten means you never mattered enough to hold on to. And that's where you are now. You've reached a place where they're just another chapter in your story, a lesson learned, a phase completed, a growth catalyst. Nothing more, nothing less. Now let's talk about what happens when they try to come back. Because they will try. Maybe not today, maybe not this month, but eventually curiosity will turn into desperation. Eventually, pride will crumble under the weight of regret. Eventually, they'll reach out. They'll test the waters with a casual message, a random memory, a just checking in. And in that moment, you'll have a choice. You can respond and fall back into old patterns, or you can honor the journey that brought you here. You can remember the pain that pushed you away. You can respect the healing that happened in their absence. You can protect the peace you fought so hard to build. Because here's the truth they don't want you to know. People don't change because they miss you. They change because they lose you. And even then, most of the time, the change is temporary. It's a performance designed to get you back. And once they have you again, once they're comfortable again, the cycle repeats. The games return. The taking for granted resumes, and you're right back where you started. Is that really what you want? Your absence taught you something they never could. It taught you that you're complete on your own. It taught you that happiness doesn't require their participation. It taught you that peace doesn't need their approval. It taught you that love should never feel like a battlefield. It taught you that the right people don't make you question your worth. It taught you that your energy is sacred and should be protected. It taught you that walking away from toxicity isn't weakness, it's self-preservation. It taught you that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is remove yourself from situations that diminish you. It taught you that you are not obligated to stay in spaces that don't honor you. It taught you that closure comes from within, not from them. And most importantly, it taught you that you are enough. You were always enough. You will always be enough, with or without them. Here's what they're realizing now in their quiet moments. In those late night hours when they can't sleep. In those random moments when a song reminds them of you. In those empty spaces where you used to be, they're realizing you were the best thing they had and didn't recognize it. You were the realest connection they experienced, and they sabotaged it. You were the person who saw them completely and loved them anyway, and they destroyed that. You were loyal when they were disloyal. You were consistent when they were flaky. You were present when they were distant. You were giving when they were taking. You were fighting when they were quitting. And they let you go. They watched you walk away. They let pride win over love. They let ego win over connection. They let stupidity win over something beautiful. And now they're paying the price. The price of knowing exactly what they lost. The price of living with the consequences of their choices. The price of understanding too late what they had. But here's where it gets interesting. Here's where the tables completely turn. While they're drowning in regret, you're swimming in possibility. While they're stuck in the past, you're building a future. While they're obsessing over what was, you're excited about what's coming. Because your absence didn't just free you from them. It freed you from the version of yourself that accepted less, from the version that ignored red flags, from the version that made excuses for bad behavior, from the version that prioritized someone else's comfort over your own peace. That version is gone. And in its place stands someone unrecognizable, someone powerful, someone whole. Someone who learned that the greatest relationship you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. And once you master that, once you truly love yourself, once you truly protect yourself, once you truly prioritize yourself, everything else falls into place. Let's address the elephant in the room. You're not perfect. You made mistakes too. You had your moments. You weren't always easy. But here's the difference. You were willing to grow. You were willing to communicate. You were willing to work on yourself. You were willing to meet them halfway. You were willing to be vulnerable. You were willing to try. They weren't. They chose comfort over growth. They chose pride over connection. They chose their ego over your heart. They chose temporary satisfaction over lasting commitment. They chose games over authenticity. And those choices, they have consequences. Consequences they're living with right now. Consequences that will follow them into their next relationship and the one after that. Because patterns don't break themselves, and people who don't learn from their mistakes are doomed to repeat them. So while they're busy cycling through connections trying to find what they lost, you're busy becoming the kind of person who attracts what you deserve. Your absence became your superpower. Your silence became your statement. Your peace became your revenge. And your growth became your legacy. You don't need to prove anything to them anymore. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to justify your decision. You don't need to make them understand. You don't need their validation. You don't need their approval. You don't need their acknowledgement. You don't need anything from them. And that realization, that liberating, powerful, life-changing realization, that's what freedom feels like. That's what self-love looks like. That's what evolution sounds like. And they can hear it, they can feel it, they can see it. Even from the distance you created, they can sense the shift. They can sense the power. They can sense the finality. And it terrifies them because they know, they finally know, you meant it. You really don't need them anymore. So here's what happens next. You keep going, you keep building, you keep growing, you keep protecting your energy, you keep honoring your journey, you keep trusting the process. You keep believing in yourself. You keep choosing yourself every single day because you've tasted freedom now. You've experienced peace now. You've felt what it's like to be unattached to chaos. And there's no going back from that. There's no returning to dysfunction once you've experienced alignment. There's no settling for crumbs once you've tasted abundance. There's no accepting disrespect once you've established boundaries. You've evolved. And evolution doesn't reverse itself. It only moves forward. And that's exactly what you're doing. Moving forward, with or without them. Preferably without them. Because your absence confirmed what they feared most. That you're not just surviving without them. You're thriving. You're flourishing. You're becoming. And that truth, that undeniable, powerful, liberating truth, will haunt them forever. Oh, look who they're interrogating now. You. The one who walked into the room and made it shift. The one whose presence rearranged the energy before you even opened your mouth. And what's the first thing they do? They start digging. Not into your work, not into your skills, not into the blood, sweat, and sleepless nights that built you from the ground up. No. They're looking for the cheat code, the shortcut, the golden ticket. They're whispering behind cupped hands, scrolling through your lineage like detectives on a cold case. Are you related to someone? Do you have connections? Is your success borrowed? Did someone hand you this? And when they find nothing, when the search comes up empty, when there's no famous last name, no executive parent, no industry insider pulling strings, that's when the real panic sets in. Because now they have to face the truth. If you're serious about building the life that matches this mindset, the Grim Grit Life Complete Planners Bundle was made exactly for you. 6 premium guides, 82 pages, fully interactive on any device. Sleep, training, meals, recipes, travel, and wedding, all in one single download. This is not just a planner. This is the infrastructure for the person you are becoming. Grab the bundle now and save over 50% compared to buying separately. Link is in the description. You did this. Alone. Raw. Self-made. And that terrifies them more than any nepotism ever could. Let's talk about what just happened, shall we? You entered a space. Any space. A job. A room. A circle. A stage. And you didn't just participate. You dominated. Not loud, not obnoxious, but undeniable. Your presence carried weight that couldn't be explained by a degree or a referral or a family tree. It was something else, something earned, something forged in the furnace of rejection, failure, and silent grind. And the moment they felt it, the moment your energy knocked theirs off balance, they couldn't accept it. Because in their world, power only comes from one place: inheritance, connections, bloodlines, a pre-existing network that vouches for you before you even speak. So when you show up with none of that, when you arrive with nothing but your own backbone and your own brilliance, their brains short-circuit. They need an explanation. They need a reason that fits their narrative. They need you to be a product of someone else's success. Because if you're not, if you built this from nothing, then what does that say about them? Here's the thing they don't want you to know. The question, are you related to anyone, isn't curiosity. It's fear disguised as investigation. It's insecurity wearing a detective's hat. They're not asking because they're impressed. They're asking because they're desperate to find a reason to dismiss you. A reason to downplay your rise. A reason to tell themselves, oh, of course they made it. They had help. They had backing. They had a head start. Because the alternative, the idea that you climbed from the bottom with no ladder, no safety net, no family empire, is too threatening to their fragile egos. It means they've been making excuses. It means they've been hiding behind I don't have the right connections while you were out there creating your own. It means their comfort zone just got obliterated by someone who refused to wait for permission, for referrals, for doors to open. You kicked them down, and now they're scrambling to rebuild the illusion that success only belongs to the chosen few. So they dig. Oh, they dig deep. They Google your last name like archaeologists hunting for treasure. They scan your social media for glimpses of wealth, privilege, hidden advantages. They listen to your stories for clues, for names they recognize, for traces of inherited glory. And when they find none, when the investigation yields nothing but hard work, self-education, late nights, and sheer will, they don't celebrate you. They don't applaud. They get bitter. They get suspicious. They start inventing narratives. There's gotta be something. Maybe they're hiding it. Maybe they're lying. Maybe they got lucky. Lucky. As if luck is what carried you through the years of doubt. As if luck is what kept you going when every door slammed in your face. As if luck is what taught you the skills they never bothered to learn because they were too busy waiting for someone to hand them the crown. No, darling, luck didn't build you. You built you. And that's the story they'll never believe because it destroys the one they've been telling themselves for years. Let's get one thing brutally clear. They wanted you to be related to someone because it would have made them feel better. It would have given them permission to stay mediocre. It would have let them off the hook. See, they only made it because they knew someone. I could do that too if I had those connections. It's the ultimate cope, the ultimate excuse, the safety blanket they wrap around their underachievement. But you didn't give them that comfort. You showed up self-made, self-taught, self-sufficient, and suddenly their entire belief system is on fire. Because if you can do it, if someone with no family name, no industry ties, no inherited wealth can rise to this level, then what's stopping them? The answer is simple. Nothing. Nothing but their own refusal to work as hard as you did. Nothing but their addiction to shortcuts. Nothing but their fear of facing the mirror and admitting they've been wasting time. So instead of looking inward, they look for proof that you cheated the system. They need you to be connected. They need you to be privileged. Because if you're not, it means they are the only thing standing between themselves and success. And here's where it gets beautiful. You don't owe them the answer they're fishing for. You don't owe them a family tree. You don't owe them a list of mentors or sponsors or secret benefactors. When they ask, "Are you related to anyone?" you can smile. You can laugh. You can look them dead in the eye and say, "No." Just that. No explanation. No apology. No justification. Because that single word is a grenade. It detonates their entire theory. It shatters their fragile narrative. It forces them to confront the one reality they've been running from. You are the exception that proves the rule is a lie. The system they obey, the one that says you need connections to win, just got torched by someone who had none. And now they're standing in the ashes trying to figure out how you did it. Spoiler alert, they never will. Because they're looking for an external answer to an internal question. They're searching for a secret, when the truth is right in front of them. You outworked them. You outlasted them. You refused to accept the limitations they placed on themselves. That's it. That's the formula. And it's the one thing they'll never replicate. Now let's talk about the weight of being self-made in a world that respects legacy. You know what it's like, don't you? You know the sting of walking into rooms where everyone else had a warm introduction, a family friend, a pre-arranged coffee meeting that opened doors you didn't even know existed. You know the exhaustion of building from zero while watching others start at 50 because their last name carried currency. You know the loneliness of grinding in silence while they posted their easy wins, their handed opportunities, their "I'm so blessed" captions that forgot to mention the trust fund or the executive parent or the investor who just happened to be a family connection. You watched them stumble into success while you crawled through broken glass to earn a single chance. And it made you bitter for a while, didn't it? It made you question if the game was rigged. It made you wonder if hard work even mattered in a world where birth orders seemed to matter more. But then something shifted. You stopped comparing. You stopped measuring your chapter 1 against their chapter 10. You realized their head start wasn't your setback. It was your fuel. Because here's the truth they don't teach you in those motivational circles. Being self-made doesn't just mean you built something. It means you built yourself. Every skill you have, you hunted down. Every connection you made, you earned through value, not blood. Every door that opened, you kicked down or picked the lock. You didn't inherit confidence. You forged it in the fires of rejection. You didn't inherit resilience. You developed it by surviving what should have broken you. You didn't inherit your network. You built it brick by brick, conversation by conversation, favor by favor, trust by trust. And that makes you dangerous. Because people who inherit power can lose it. It can be taken away. It can crumble when the family name loses value or the connections dry up. But you can't lose what you built with your own hands. You can't be stripped of skills you taught yourself. You can't have your resilience revoked. You are the foundation. You are the empire. And that's a level of security and strength that no last name can ever provide. So when they ask if you're related to someone, what they're really asking is, how do I make sense of you? Because you don't fit their model. You're the glitch in the matrix, the anomaly, the outlier that breaks their algorithm. In their world, success follows a pattern. It's predictable, it's traceable, it's inherited, networked, or purchased. But you showed up with none of that and still conquered. You rewrote the code. You hacked the system they thought was unhackable. And now they're studying you like scientists, examining a species that shouldn't exist. They want to dissect your journey, find the moment you got lucky, identify the hidden advantage you must be concealing. But the more they look, the more frustrated they become. Because the only advantage you had was the refusal to quit. The only secret weapon you wielded was consistency. The only cheat code you used was discipline when motivation ran dry. And those aren't things they can replicate by association. Those are forged in solitude, earned in obscurity, built in the dark when no one's watching and no one's cheering. Let's be honest. They wanted to find a famous relative because it would have made you less intimidating. It would have shrunk you down to size. Oh, they're just riding coattails. They're just benefiting from a name. They're not special. But you denied them that comfort. You showed up special without permission, without a co-signer, without a family brand to lean on. And that makes you untouchable, because now there's no one to blame but themselves. There's no external factor they can point to and say, that's why I'm not there. You removed every excuse from the table. You eliminated every justification for their stagnation. You became living proof that the only thing standing between them and their goals is their own unwillingness to do what you did. And that is unforgivable in their eyes, because now they have to either admit their weakness or pretend you don't exist. And since ignoring you is impossible, because your presence is too loud, too undeniable, too magnetic, they're left with one option: resentment. But here's where the story gets even better. While they were busy investigating your bloodline, you were busy building your empire. While they were scrolling through your past looking for clues, you were creating a future they couldn't even imagine. While they were whispering theories about how you got here, you were already 3 steps ahead, planning the next move, securing the next win, expanding into territories they didn't even know existed. Because that's what self-made people do. They don't pause to defend their origin story. They don't waste energy proving their worth to people who are committed to misunderstanding them. They move, they build, they execute, and by the time the doubters finish their investigation and come up empty-handed, you're already unreachable, already untouchable, already on a level they'll spend the next decade trying to explain away. And the beauty of it all? You didn't need their belief. You didn't need their approval. You didn't need their validation or their recognition. You needed your own. And that's the only endorsement that ever mattered. Let's talk about the psychology behind their obsession with your origin story. It's not about you at all. It's about them. It's about protecting their fragile sense of self. See, when someone rises without the advantages they convinced themselves were necessary, it shatters their worldview. It breaks the story they told themselves about why they haven't risen yet. They've built entire identities around the excuse. I don't have connections. I wasn't born into wealth. I don't have access. And those excuses became their shields, their comfort zones, their reasons to stay small. But then you walk in, and you didn't have those things either. And yet you're standing where they wish they were. You've achieved what they dream about. You've built what they keep planning to build someday. And that creates a cognitive dissonance so painful, so destabilizing, that their brain has to resolve it somehow. So it searches for the loophole, the hidden advantage, the secret ingredient. They must be related to someone. They must have had help. They must have gotten lucky. Because if they can find that external factor, they can keep their excuses intact. They can keep their shields up. They can avoid the terrifying truth that they are the only obstacle in their own path. And this is why they'll never stop asking. They'll keep digging. They'll keep whispering. They'll keep searching for the proof that you didn't really earn this. Because accepting that you did would require them to change. It would require them to take responsibility. It would require them to stop blaming the system, the economy, the gatekeepers, the lack of connections, and start blaming the one face they see in the mirror every morning. And that's a confrontation most people will avoid for their entire lives. So instead, they turn you into a mystery, an unsolved case, a puzzle that doesn't make sense. And while they're stuck trying to solve you, you're out here solving problems, closing deals, building networks from scratch, creating opportunities where none existed, and proving over and over again that the only permission you ever needed was your own. That's the difference between people who make excuses and people who make history. One group spends their energy investigating how others did it. The other group spends their energy doing it. Now let's address the elephant in the room, the isolation. Because being self-made in a world of inherited privilege is lonely, isn't it? You can't relate to the stories they tell at networking events. The casual mentions of my father's company or my family's connections, or I just reached out to my uncle who works in the industry. You sit there nodding, smiling, knowing your story doesn't have those sentences. Your story starts with cold emails that went unanswered, with applications that were rejected, with doors that stayed locked, with rooms you weren't invited into, with opportunities you had to create because no one was creating them for you. And when you finally break through, when you finally arrive, they still don't get it. They still don't understand the weight you carried, the battles you fought, the nights you spent doubting yourself, questioning if this was even possible, wondering if the game was rigged against people like you. And when they ask, "Are you related to anyone?" it's a reminder that they'll never truly understand the journey because they never had to take it. But here's the twist. That isolation, that loneliness, that's your superpower. Because you learn to rely on yourself in ways they never will. You developed a self-trust that can't be shaken because it was forged in the moments when no one else believed in you. You built a resilience that can't be borrowed or inherited because it came from surviving what should have destroyed you. You cultivated a hunger that can't be taught because it was born from wanting something so badly that you were willing to build it with your bare hands. And that makes you unstoppable. Because people who had everything handed to them don't know what to do when things fall apart. They panic, they crumble, they look for someone to save them. But you've been saving yourself since day one. You've been building, failing, rebuilding, adapting, evolving, without a safety net, without a backup plan, without a family empire to fall back on. So when challenges come, and they will, you don't flinch, you don't freeze, you do what you've always done, you figure it out. And that's a level of power they'll never access. Let's get darker for a moment. Because the truth is, they don't just want to know if you're related to someone famous. They want you to be. They're hoping for it, praying for it. Because if you are, it means they can dismiss you. It means they can undermine everything you've built. It means they can whisper behind your back, "Oh, they're only here because of who they know." And that whisper, that's their lifeline. That's their way of coping with the fact that you outplayed them without the advantages they respect. So when you tell them no, when you deny them that satisfaction, when you refuse to give them the excuse they desperately need, you're not just answering a question. You're delivering a verdict. You're forcing them to face the reality that you are better, not because of luck, not because of lineage, but because you worked harder, smarter, longer. You sacrificed more. You believed when they doubted. You persisted when they quit. And now they have to live with that. They have to wake up every day knowing that someone with less started ahead of them in the race and still lost. That someone with no connections built a network stronger than theirs. That someone with no famous name made a name that echoes louder, And that knowledge, that truth, it will haunt them forever. Because here's what they'll never admit out loud. They're not asking if you're related to someone famous out of genuine curiosity. They're asking because they need you to be. They need their worldview to stay intact. They need the rules they've been playing by to still matter. Because if you can win without those rules, it means the game they've been playing is obsolete. It means the strategies they've been using are outdated. It means the excuses they've been hiding behind are exposed as the lies they always were. And that's a level of discomfort, a level of cognitive dissonance that most people can't handle. So they'd rather believe you're lying. They'd rather believe you're hiding your connections. They'd rather invent a conspiracy theory about your success than accept the simple, brutal truth. You earned it, every single bit of it, with no shortcuts, no handouts, no famous last name opening doors. Just you, your vision, and your refusal to accept their limitations as your reality. And that makes you legendary. Let's talk about what happens next. Because this isn't just about them anymore. This is about you. About how you move forward knowing that no matter what you achieve, there will always be people trying to poke holes in your story, trying to find the real reason you succeeded, trying to diminish your accomplishments by attributing them to factors outside your control. And here's the hard truth. You can't stop them. You can't control their narrative. You can't force them to see your journey the way you lived it. But you can do something far more powerful. You can keep building. You can keep rising. You can keep shattering ceilings and rewriting rules and proving that self-made isn't just a possibility, it's a movement. Because every time you level up without their permission, you're creating a blueprint. You're showing someone else who's starting from zero that it's possible. You're becoming the proof that they were searching for when they felt invisible, overlooked, underestimated. And that legacy, that's worth more than any famous last name could ever provide. So when they ask, are you related to anyone? Smile. Smile like you know something they don't, because you do. You know that their question is born from fear. You know that their investigation is rooted in insecurity. You know that their need to find a reason outside of you is proof that you've already won. And then, after you smile, after you let that moment hang in the air, you give them the answer that will echo in their minds long after you've left the room. No, I'm not related to anyone famous. I'm the first. I'm the one they'll be asking about in 20 years when someone else shows up and they start digging into their bloodline. I'm the name that starts the legacy. I'm the beginning of the dynasty. I'm the origin story. And then you walk away. Because you don't need to explain. You don't need to justify. You don't need to prove anything to people who were rooting for you to fail. Your life, your work, your rise, that's all the proof you'll ever need. The excuse they desperately need. You're not just answering a question. You're delivering a verdict. You're forcing them to face the reality that you are better, not because of luck, not because of lineage, but because you worked harder, smarter, longer. You sacrificed more. You believed when they doubted. You persisted when they quit. And now they have to live with that. They have to wake up every day knowing that someone with less started ahead of them in the race and still lost. That someone with no connections built a network stronger than theirs. That someone with no famous name made a name that echoes louder. And that knowledge, that truth, it will haunt them forever. Because here's what they'll never admit out loud. They're not asking if you're related to someone famous out of genuine curiosity. They're asking because they need you to be. They need their worldview to stay intact. They need the rules they've been playing by to still matter. Because if you can win without those rules, it means the game they've been playing is obsolete. It means the strategies they've been using are outdated. It means the excuses they've been hiding behind are exposed as the lies they always were. And that's a level of discomfort, a level of cognitive dissonance that most people can't handle. So they'd rather believe you're lying. They'd rather believe you're hiding your connections. They'd rather invent a conspiracy theory about your success than accept the simple, brutal truth. You earned it, every single bit of it, with no shortcuts, no handouts, no famous last name opening doors. Just you, your vision, and your refusal to accept their limitations as your reality. And that makes you legendary. Let's talk about what happens next. Because this isn't just about them anymore. This is about you. About how you move forward knowing that no matter what you achieve, there will always be people trying to poke holes in your story, trying to find the real reason you succeeded, trying to diminish your accomplishments by attributing them to factors outside your control. And here's the hard truth. You can't stop them. You can't control their narrative. You can't force them to see your journey the way you lived it. But you can do something far more powerful. You can keep building. You can keep rising. You can keep shattering ceilings and rewriting rules and proving that self-made isn't just a possibility, it's a movement. Because every time you level up without their permission, you're creating a blueprint. You're showing someone else who's starting from zero that it's possible. You're becoming the proof that they were searching for when they felt invisible, overlooked, underestimated. And that legacy, that's worth more than any famous last name could ever provide. So when they ask, are you related to anyone? Smile. Smile like you know something